Okay, welcome back everybody to the Cranbourne Secondary College podcast. As always, we have me, Mr. Young, and our other regular.
Hey, it's me, Mr. L, but I think the cameras might be flipped, so I think
I
Mr.
think
Young
it
kind of
might
point
be.
that way. Yeah, yeah.
I can
Either
never
way
tell.
works.
So, and we also have our special guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Mrs. Manu. I'm an English teacher at Cranbourne Secondary College, and I'm thrilled to be here.
Hey, nice. So, if the students don't know you, what other subjects do you teach aside from English?
Well, I actually teach only English. And
Okay, cool.
so my first year, I did one class we had a different version of Connect for Success then. That was about 4 years ago. So I had my home group for that in year 7. And and after that, it's only been English.
What year levels though, Miss Mano?
Yeah.
Basically, I have covered all year levels during my 4 years from 7 to 11. Yes, I've had a real run through this levels.
So that means quite a few students might actually be quite familiar with you then.
Yeah, actually, like the first kids that I taught in year 7 are moving on to year 11 next year. So it's pretty exciting. So from year 11 downwards, I have interacted at least once with those. Yeah.
That's cool.
That's so cool. I know a personal goal of mine is to see my year 7s from last year, so this year's year 8s, graduate. Yeah. And so I don't know if you're doing the same, but like it's one of my biggest goals to see. It's like to see my first full cohort graduate through the school.
Yeah, that's what I did as well. Yeah, with my current year, the current year 12s that are graduating, I had them as I was one of year 8 home group teachers, and then I became one of year 9 home group teachers, and then I was their year 10 leader, and then they're watching them graduate. So even though I didn't teach them when they were in 7, but I still was around, but I didn't know them that well back then. But yeah, it's good to see them graduate. But Miss Mano, what were you about to say?
I said, the current year 12s, the ones are coming in next year. I've taught about 3 or 5 of them, very small, so don't know them much. But yeah, but I feel quite at home at Cranbourne now that I know everybody, most of them at least.
I have like a quite short actual professional time at Cranbourne Secondary College, where I've only like been here for 2 years, but it feels like I've been there for longer, mainly because, as everyone should know or probably knows by now, I had Mr. Lam as my mentor teacher. So yeah, it's quite nice to continue to be at the same school. It's a very nice environment to be in.
Yeah, following them through, especially seeing them mature and graduate. Yeah.
So with a really quite a popular topic on this podcast, we typically talk about how schooling was like for us as students, and it's more interesting when we talk about teachers who have maybe done schooling overseas. So Miss Mano, where did you study?
So I come from this small little island just beneath India called Sri Lanka. It's quite smaller even than Tasmania, but it still has 22 million people population, or a little bit more now, I think. So I went to a school in the city there. You have only one major city there, Colombo. So my school was in Colombo, and it was a Catholic girls' school run by nuns. So I had a pretty strict school experience.
If you could walk us through the day, like what was starting time to finishing time, and like was there, and how many breaks did you get in between, like eating time and stuff like that? What was that like? Yeah.
Okay, so because it's in the tropics, it's pretty hot, the climate. So we start very early around. School starts at 7:30 and finishes at 1:30.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. I lived a little far away from the city, like in the outskirts of the city. So I had to leave home around 6:30 to get to school on time. So it was a journey every day up and down. And so we had we had the first period, and then we had a 10-minute break. That was like home group time where the roles were marked at the end of the first period. And we could just quickly grab a snack or, a bite, but couldn't leave the classrooms. We just had to stay there and have a little bit of breakfast if we had missed it. And that was followed by, so we had 8 40-minute lesson periods per day. So I don't know, 8, yeah, it's been such a long time.
Yeah, I think it's about 8. Is it like 8 separate periods, like different subjects, or like 8 and there's like 3 doubles?
So like here, English and maths would be double, but the other subjects would be single. And no, it's not really English, sorry, the mother language. Actually 3, yes. So mother tongue, English and maths, we had double lessons. But the other is all single. And then we had 4 lessons after the first break. And then we had a 20-minute lunch. Does that? I think it was 8 periods, because it was 40 periods per week, so it has to be 8 periods. Yeah.
Wow.
That's kind of intense.
Yeah. Well, for students, not so much, because the setup was totally different. The teachers moved from class to class while the students stayed in the same spot. So it was different. So it was just the teachers moving around, really. And yeah, so time was a whole group of students moving around after every 40 minutes. It would have been chaotic, I suppose.
Especially with the population as well. That would have been intense.
Yeah. Well, our school wasn't that big, actually. We had about 600 or 700 girls. That's it. And and it was, we had primary school, and the secondary school was called the collegiate school. So they were quite separate. I mean, they were in the same compound, but there were 2 main roads on either corner. So the primary students always used a lot of congestion because of that.
Okay.
All right.
Was there any like extracurricular activities you could do?
Yes, yeah. So we have quite a lot. I mean, we had basketball, swimming. We had band. We had a school band, a choir, and because it was a religious affiliated school, there were those religious societies, and we had tennis. We had a tennis court in school, gymnastics. Yeah, so I think around that, and swimming was during my time, swimming was really popular, and we had some national level swimmers in the school. So so they give scholarships to kids who are talented like that. So my best friend was one of them. So it was fun. Yeah. I couldn't swim. I couldn't swim.
Yeah, I wonder if it's because of the
but my best friend was a great swimmer.
Yeah, I wonder if it's because of the tropical climate that people just like being in the water a bit more. And then from there, they're like, you know what? I'm just gonna start learning to actually swim properly, and then they get baited into it, maybe.
Wait, imagine if the whole goal was just to like cool down from swimming, but then somehow along the road you just became like a nationals level swimmer. I was like, well, this is my life now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And how about those other? Because you talked about those 3 core subjects. Then were there any of the other subjects, the non-core ones that are quite different to what we have here? Is there anything unique?
School there, I think collegiate or like secondary school is from grade 6 to grade 13.
Oh.
So at the end of grade 11, you're expected to sit an exam, like lower secondary exam called ordinary levels. It's like the old British system.
O-levels?
There.
Yeah.
Yeah, O-levels. Yeah, we call them the O-levels. And during my time, we had 7 subjects that we had to sit for. So from year 6, we kind of we were trained for that. But when so it was English, maths, language, like mother tongue, science, health science, and religion. Yeah, so religion was compulsory. And then there was something called an aesthetic subject where we could choose. So whether it was art or music or dancing or literature was considered aesthetics as well. But we had to choose the aesthetic subject only in grade 9.
Okay.
And in 6, 7, 8, and 8, each year we got a chance to try out one of them, so that by the time we come to year 9, we could, we would know what we liked and we could choose.
That's good. That's smart.
Something that suits us. Yeah. So we had things like needlework as well. I've sewn 2 pillowcases.
Oh, wow.
By hand.
Nice. By hand as well. I remember having to do, something similar, but I had the sewing machine in high school for like textiles. Yeah.
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 But something we didn't have, which they have now, is now they have woodworks and a lot of other kind of hands-on subjects.
Yep.
I wish we had those, but we during I don't know, I suppose because it was a real conventional girls' school.
Yeah.
They didn't introduce those.
Yeah.
Oh, we had home economics. So yes, we learned how to fold a serviette and serve stuff and set a table and
Yep, that's very definitely. You can see the British influence there for sure. Yes.
And very gender stereotyped as well.
I can imagine. Yeah.
So I think something that might be very, I guess, new to students that at Cranbourne East might be the whole idea of being in a religious school. I don't think I don't think we have that much of a religion-based class at Cranbourne East Secondary College.
No, I think here what we have is it's part of the curriculum, like ethical capabilities. So not looking at what is right and wrong and that type of thing, but not in a religious through a religious lens, I think.
Just because I think it's because we just have such a diverse community in our school that it kind of doesn't cater for everyone if we just talk about one religion.
I do know some schools, they actually send, I've got, I think it might have been Mr. Chamberlain when he left our school for a bit to spend 1 or 2 years at another school. Even though that school was a Christian school, they had excursions where they would go out to the community to different places of religion to have a deeper understanding of each one. So it wasn't just going to a church, then it was going to a mosque as well, then a Jewish place of worship, and so the students actually had to almost like write a report about each place that they went to. So that's quite interesting in that I think we don't have, but I think even in our area, the most common religious schools that we have around Cranny East would be the Christian and Catholic ones, I think, because I know there's one in Narre. And then St. Peter's is another one, and then I think there's Lighthouse, which is close by-ish as well. So those 3. And I remember I actually went to a Catholic primary school from grade prep to grade 2 before I changed schools. But looking back now, I thought that was normal because I was like, oh wow, this school, it's like literally only 1 grade prep, 1 grade 1, 1 grade 2, and each class size was only probably like max 20 kids. So there's only like the whole school's only like 120 kids. And then I go and change schools to Doncaster Primary. And I'm like, what? There's 3 A, B, C, and there's like 600 kids. And it's like such a huge wake up call for me. But
And then fast forward to today where we have like 300 or something in each year level.
Exactly.
Next year, the year 9's 9-0, I think. 9,
I know,
Yeah, exactly.
So wait, what was... Sorry, you continue.
One thing about our school was, though it was like by denomination it's Catholic, we still had we didn't have Christian students, but we had Buddhists, which were like the majority, like the major religion in my country, and Muslim and as Hindu students as well. So it was multicultural in the sense, but like 70% would be Catholics, but there were also those other groups. So, and those religions were also taught in school.
Okay, that's good. Interesting.
Is it any different to like schooling now if you're studying in like a religious school, like a Catholic school?
Actually, it hasn't changed much because before we came here, my daughter also went there for 5 years.
Oh, did she?
Primary, So because it's that type of community school, like I know my friend, like 4 generations of girls from her family has been going to that school. So it's very, very traditional. And when I talk to my friends now, they are actually pulling the kids out of them, saying that it's too old-fashioned and it hasn't really adapted to new ways of learning and things like that. It's quite sad, really, because that school was established in 1901.
Wow.
And it has a long, long history, yes. So I suppose now, in a sense, that type of religious environment doesn't really work with the new ways of the world, I suppose. So I have a lot of nostalgia when I think about the school. But when I hear about feedback from my friends whose children are going there, they don't seem to think that it's current, you know.
So have you got any insight in terms of what the other schools are like in the area, like the government schools? Are they, quite similar to here, do you know, or if anything like that? Yeah.
Well, something like before I came here as a teacher, I worked in what we call an international school in Sri Lanka. That means those schools are following British curriculum, and they're exclusively teaching in English. Whereas in my school, it was bilingual. We had some subjects in English, some in mother tongue. So those schools, they have more facilities, and so you could buy that. But most other schools, like students are still doing the work in their books. I don't think anybody has a personal laptop that they can bring to school. So that was a really big challenge for Sri Lanka, especially during the last 2 years. Kids relied on your mobile phone to access education, it's technology. Even private free living schools, children don't use laptops.
It's kind of interesting how schools have changed from back then to now. Like you were saying, where a lot of students now still don't use laptops. Back when I was in high school, which is 8 years ago, I think it's 8. We weren't allowed laptops as well. So it's kind of like, it's very interesting how we've gone from a shift from originally absolutely no phones to phones in your lockers to no laptops to laptops, and then like the whole transition from like the incorporation of technology into multiple things. Because you know how we use projectors?
Yeah.
I very distinctly remember we used to use something called an Elmo, I think, well, we called it Elmo, but it's basically you have like this clear laminated sheet where it takes the reflection of the sheet and projects it onto the screen. So like
and you could write on those sheets. Then and there.
They were kind of my favorite lessons, to be honest.
I didn't know they were called Elmos. But I remember.
We called them Elmos. I think the brand was an Elmo.
Okay. No wonder why. Yeah.
So what was my question before? So with the whole incorporation of religion, was it ever like very pushed in some cases? Like I know like some schools might enforce religion a little bit more. Like with my high school, it was like you have to attend chapel, do these services. You have the right to not follow it, but you just need to be there for it.
Yes. So if you were Catholic, and like every time there was that there are things called feasts in Catholic Church. So whenever there was a feast day, we used to have mass. Like, so you had to go to. So we used to have it in the school auditorium, and all of us were required to go. And sometimes our friends who were not Catholics also used to come, because it was just fun thing to do. And sometimes we tried to avoid it, and we got into trouble and all that.
Yeah.
Used to hide in cupboards, and it was fun too.
Yeah, that's very funny. Yeah, because I know, yeah, even these days, some schools, because I know of, like, when I was doing my placements, I know there was a school that I was attending, which was technically meant to be a Christian school, but they have said, it's like, yeah, but we've kind of like moved away from that. We do still have to go to that mass, similar to mass, like every Friday morning, but there's not I mean, everyone is ever forced to follow religion or have to follow any sort of RE classes. There's nothing like that. And of course, there's other Christian schools that I have seen, which some of my friends are part of, where it literally is, in order for you to actually come into the school, you need to have like a letter from the pastor to show that you actually do go to a church regularly, and recommendations and stuff like that before they can actually go in. And so then I guess it's not really enforced once you're in the school, because they kind of expect that you already do follow the religion. But there definitely is a lot more of those RE classes. In all the subjects, they link it back to the religion, say, okay, how does our religion talk about this? So I've seen it both models before as well. Yeah.
It was actually, honestly, when I think back, I really don't even remember during the last, maybe it was just the last year, and up until the last year of school, I didn't even notice that I had friends of a different faith in my friends group. But towards the end of the 90s and the early 2000s, there was like worldwide, there was this tendency to talk about religion and to be faithful to, like, sort of an extremist kind of idea thinking in relation. So it was, during that last year, there was a lot of, I mean, like, you became aware that, oh, I'm different from that person. That person is not following. But up to that point, like late 90s, we were all okay. It just didn't matter. We for Buddhist festivals, we lit lanterns. We decorate. I mean, though it was a Catholic school, we decorated the whole school with lanterns. And for one of the Hindu festivals, I forget the name, you do this beautiful pattern on the floor around the lamp using colored rice.
Yep. Wow.
I forget the name of that thing. Yeah, it's beautiful. For Muslim, because they don't have very explicit celebrations, I don't remember, but I remember most of my students, my friends, fasting, and so those were time periods we didn't play much during the break because they were too tired. So, and then Christmas time was, it was great. We used to collect hampers and create parcels for the ones who clean the school, people who come to clean the school. Yeah, it was really nice. So we used to sing songs. It was like, you never felt that, oh, I'm doing something religious. We just had a lot of fun. But like I said, towards the end of the 90s, this sense of extremism came in, and we suddenly began to notice that we're different.
I think it's also interesting, different countries, because I'm not too sure about Sri Lanka, but I do know in Singapore, for example, there's a huge, same thing, Buddhist, Taoist, and a huge Muslim population there as well. But everyone there, whenever I've gone, they're very embracing of each other's culture. And, they work together, and I guess they do understand that there is the differences, but they don't let that stop them from coming together. So they do know, yes, and they've even done skits before. I remember there's this one very funny skit I watched where this person comes into the office, she's like, I'm getting food for everyone. What does everyone want for lunch? And then one Muslim lady's like, oh, sorry, I'm okay. And she's like, oh my God, I'm so insensitive. I'm sorry. I forgot you're fasting. No, it's okay. You don't need to. I'm so sorry. And then she just goes back and forth for how sorry they are with each other. It's hilarious. But, so people understand the cultural differences there, and they embrace it a lot more and work together a lot more, which is very interesting, I find. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think at this point in time, it's about time in the podcast that we actually talk about our movie recommendations or our show recommendations. I have mine ready. Does everyone have their ready?
I have one.
Yeah.
We can let Miss Mano take her time to find one whilst we share ours. How about that?
All right. I have one too. Yeah, but I'm happy to go second. Just after. I just want to see how you guys do it.
Sure. All right.
I might start off for the recommendation. So basically, with all of our talks about religion and culture and then our education, one of the movies that has kind of sparked or kind of come into mind for me was something I recently rewatched called The Farewell. I don't know if other people have seen it, but The Farewell stars Awkwafina, who is amazing. If you don't know who Awkwafina is, she's in Crazy Rich Asians. And basically it follows the story of Awkwafina, who is, I think her name was Billy.
Yeah, Billy, that's right. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, Billy. And she finds out that her grandma is slowly passing away. So her grandma is sick and is expecting to pass within the next 3 months or so. So what happens is that she decides to, with her family, fly to China, back to China, because she's in America, and they fly back to China to visit her. But the thing is, what it explores, the whole movie explores the difference in cultures. So especially one that really aligns to me, where it's either Australian or American born Chinese kids who have this whole divide between I am a Western, I'm belonging to the Western culture or the Eastern culture. And expecting her to do is to lie to her grandma that her grandma is completely fine and that they don't know if she's about to pass away, because the grandma actually doesn't know she's that sick. She just thinks that she just has a flu. And so what the family is doing is trying to lie to the grandma to kind of make the whole experience less worrisome for the grandma. So they explore the whole culture differences and the reasoning why they do that, because I'm pretty sure in Western laws, so it could be rather illegal.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a pretty good watch. It's very emotional. I almost cried. And basically it's just, it's really cool to see someone or a whole movie validate your whole, I guess, childhood, almost childhood. Not that I have to lie to a grandma or something, but more of being born Australian / American Chinese.
Yeah, that the cultural conflict.
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah. I love movies.
So that was mine.
Cool.
Let's write the name down. What is the name
The
again?
Farewell.
Farewell. Yeah. Farewell. Okay. That.
Right, we've got one. Yep. Cool. Miss Meadow?
Okay. So I've watched everything Jane Austen. So I have two films that I'm really crazy about. One is a Jane Austen version of Jane Austen's Emma. In this version, there was Emma. Gwyneth Paltrow was the main character. I really love Emma because it's about this young girl who is trying to matchmake everybody around. She doesn't want to get married because she wants to grow old looking after her dad.
Yep.
And
the
mess she creates in the whole neighborhood as a result of that.
Yeah.
So I first read Jane Austen for my English studies in school, and after that I've just devoured her books. And I thought that this version of Emma, where Gwyneth Paltrow is a star, was like a really good representation of the text. And I like that old-fashioned way of kind of living, and also it's all about character. Those the stories, how people have the wrong impression and they have to face that and come around and grow up and become a better version of themselves. Yeah, so I can't remember the year of make, but yeah. So, but it's the kind of movie you watch on a nice rainy day with a warm cup of hot chocolate. That type of movie. So
nice.
Yeah, Emma.
Awesome.
Okay. It's actually I feel like it's very rare for us to get a movie that is a really good representation of a book. I'm not sure about you guys, but every time I've seen a movie that's based off of a book, they've always cut out really big plot contributors to the actual like the storyline.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, which kind of leads into my recommendation, because I guess the only way that you might be able to shove everything from a book into a movie is not make one movie, but make multiple of them. And so for me, me growing up, I remember I watched The Lord of the Rings. And after I watched the first one, no, actually, you know what? I think I watched all 3 movies, and then only then did I decide to read the books, because I wasn't very much of a book reader before it. But then after I watched The Lord of the Rings, then I was like, okay, now I need to read the books. And then I started reading the books, and I found that, I mean, they've tried their best to fit in as much as they can. And that's why the movies go for like, almost each one of them is like end game length of like almost 3 hours if you watch them with the director's cut and all those extra scenes. And so, I remember I remember reading the English in The Lord of the Rings, and it was very old in English and very complex. But luckily for me, because I had watched the movie, I found it a lot easier to visualize what was going on, even though the language is different. I can kind of be like, for example, there was a description of like the fell orcs. I'm like, fell, does that mean it's like they are dead? I'm like, no, that doesn't make sense. And then so I had to look that up. So, okay, like fell in olden days, like another term for saying like the foul, or so on. So like it's like different language. So my recommendation is as well, students, if any one of you have to read any books for school or anything, and they've got a movie adaptation, sometimes watching the adaptation does help. Not always, because sometimes they change it completely. But just be wary. There's a lot of YouTube videos around like top 10 differences between film and movie version of whatever film or whatever book. So you can always feel free to use that as a reference as well, and use that to help you understand the text more. Yeah, that's what I would recommend. Yeah.
All right. So that basically wraps up our podcast for today. Once again, thank you, Miss Mano, for coming onto our podcast.
Thank you for inviting me. It was a wonderful experience.
Yeah.
So I guess, as always, let's do this again. So I'll go first. As always, if you have any requests for guests or any topics you want to talk about to Miss Mano, feel free to approach her during like yard duties, or like during lunchtime and recess, or talk to her in the free times. But otherwise, from everyone here, we wish that you are able to stay healthy and
stay happy.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, we'll see you around.